Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. We're going to be creating a double pillar book fold card. Oh, there we go. I've been trying to get the link um, to post on the Facebook group, and it wouldn't come up. And so I'm trying to do two things at one time, which means I'm going to talk like a crazy person for half a minute here. But I just want to get the link posted so that people who are looking for it on the group can find it. It's Wednesday. Can you believe it? It feels like it was just Sunday when we were having our under the sea, no, dive right in online crop. And it was loads of fun. We did lots of crafty things. And so we're going to continue that this evening with our regularly scheduled crafting. And we had lots of fun today during We Craft Wednesdays. The video says it's scheduled for August the 5th. Interesting. I don't know what's going on. YouTube was doing something crazy on on one day during the crop, and it just was not cooperating at all. And so I'm not sure why it's doing that, but we will hopefully persevere. So hopefully you're seeing this video. Hooray! I'm not sure what that's going to mean, whether it's going to save properly or not. But we will continue on. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. I see Shannon's here. Howdy, howdy, Shannon. And so we're going to be using a bunch of stuff today. We're going to be using the Nested Essentials dies. And we're going to be specifically using these rounded rectangles. We're going to use 3 different sizes of the rounded rectangles. We're also going to be using the Spotlight on Nature stamp set. And we're going to be using both of these large images as well as the butterfly. Then we are going to be using a sentiment from the Friends for Life stamp set. We're going to be using the thank you from here. And then, there's more. We're going to be using the Country Flowers stamp set. And we're going to be using one of the sentiments from there as well. And that's the wonderful thing about stamp sets and dies. You can mix and match and make things to suit yourself because they're your tools and you create with them however you want. You don't have to stick within the bounds of one stamp set on one project. That's just not how it works. So let's get started. We are also going to be using the Nature's Sweetness DSP. It's a 12 by 12 DSP pack. We're also going to be using the gold Mercury Vellum, which is 12 by 12. And we're going to be using some cardstock too. So let's get started with the cardstock. Our first piece is going to make the base for our card. And this piece is 11 inches by 4 1/4. I will post the dimensions at the end. I will get them in the description and when I post the pictures as well. So this is 11 by 4 1/4. And if anybody's wondering where I post the pictures, because I know some of you are joining me from my Facebook group and some of you are joining me on YouTube, I post them both in my Facebook group, which is Life is Art, Let's Create, and I post them afterwards on my Facebook business page, which is Life is Art with Monica Hayward. And so that's where you'll find it. Bringing out the scoreboard, we're going to score this at 5 1/2. So we've got 11 by 4 1/4 along the 11-inch side. We're going to score it in half at 5 1/2. And this time I will score it at 5 1/2. When I was working away this afternoon, I scored it at 5 inches, and that was just not right. You know, sometimes we get things just not right. So there we go. We've scored it in the center at 5 1/2. I had to remind myself. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to fold it with the bump side to the inside and crease it down. So this looks like we're making a top fold card, because this is how you would make a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top fold card. But we're actually going to make a 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 card that opens this way. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we're going to immediately start decorating. Before we're done all the fancy fold part, we're going to start decorating, because sometimes you just have to work that way. So I have 2 pieces of fresh Fresia cardstock. I should have mentioned this was Pebbled Path. This is fresh Fresia, and these pieces have been cut to 4 inches by 4 1/4. Did I get that right? No. 4 1/4 by 4 inches. I always do horizontal, then vertical. So 4 1/4 by 4 inches. And these are going to go in here on either side of our center crease there. Okay, so let's grab our adhesive and we'll stick those down. We're going to leave a nice little edge on all 3 sides. We'll stick them both while we're at it. I just noticed that my nail polish, which is not a finished nail polish job, but it's partway there, is very close to Pebbled. Well, it's not quite Pebbled Path, but it's a similar color. We'll go with similar. Just going to go ahead and take that off. So we want to line this up along the center crease, leaving the same amount of edge showing all the way around on there. And then we're going to put this other 4 1/4 by 4 inch piece on the other side, again lining up with that center score and crease line and leaving a nice edge all the way around. There we go. Okay, to this we are going to add a couple pieces of the Nature's Sweetness 12 by 12 DSP, and this is super fun because one side of all the pieces in this collection have gold foiling on them. The other side has really fun designs and patterns and textures. And so these pieces both have been cut to 1 3/4 by 4 inches. I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive. So 1 3/4 by 4 inches. I love the glowy shine from this Nature's Sweetness collection. It looks very elegant, very pretty. And take that off. And I'm going to line this up with the edge of the fresh Fresia, like that. Do the same on the other side. And you may be wondering why I'm leaving a weird gap at the end. It's okay. We will sort that out in a minute or two. There we go. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to stamp my inside sentiment. So from the Country Flowers stamp set, I'm using the So Lucky to Know You, which I have used a lot. I kind of like that sentiment. I think anytime you have a friend, it's nice to say that you're so lucky to know them. So I'm just going to kind of center that towards the top on the left-hand side here. And for that stamping on the fresh Fresia, I use the Pebbled Path. So it's matchy-matchy with our card base. That's always fun. So the next step that we want to do is we need to create the pillars for our card. Should we do the pillars next, or should we decorate the front? What do you think? You know what? Maybe while this is still kind of flattish, because we're going to do a lot of stuff on the inside, maybe we should decorate the front of the card. What do you think? Let's give it a go. Okay, on the front of our card, we're going to be using some of the same foil from the inside, and this has been used, cut using that Nested Essentials dies, so it's got nice rounded corners. It's also got some stitching detail. This is the second largest. Then I've got this gold tiny little distressed grid that's been cut using the next size. And then also this tiny one that has been cut from the gold Mercury Vellum. I don't know if you can see it there in the light. Isn't that pretty, Vellum? And it has been cut with that as well. We're going to kind of create sort of a fun, modern-y, geometric art look here on the front of our card. Kind of something a little different. Let's add some adhesive to that. We can actually add some of this adhesive to this. I'm only going to put just little bits, and I'm going to, you know, there are some spots where you can see blobs of gold through. But I have noticed that this vellum actually does a pretty good, decentish job of hiding the adhesive. And this last piece, we're actually going to add some dimensionals to the back of it. I'm kind of loving the Pebbled Path with all the nice glow from the metallic-y gold. Doesn't that look really nice together? I thought so. I thought so. And Pebbled Path is listed as a color that's used in this collection. So on the back side, this pattern, those little splotches and the little scripty bits, those are Pebbled Path. So it works really well. Okay, and it's listed as one of the colors. Okay, let's attach this. We're going to leave a nice little 5/8 inch gap there. Just going to stick that down there like that. And then I'm just going to set this one here while I take the backing off this gold Mercury Vellum. We used this during the crop, and it was super fun. So using it again. Now this is just one of the patterns. There are actually 3 different patterns in the collection. All right. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball where I want this, but I want to try and leave about the same amount of gap over here as over here. And that helps keep everything kind of moderated. So then I'm going to take the backing off my dimensionals. Like that. Goes in the trash. And stick this down. Maybe right about there. Isn't that kind of a fun, funky, geometric pattern that we're creating there? Shannon's listening while she's fussy cutting. Shannon has been fussy cutting all day. She has been super busy coloring and fussy cutting. She's got a series coming up, and it's going to be good. You got to check her out. And Creative Chaos in Tennessee. Did I get that right, Shannon? And yeah, check her out on YouTube. She's working on something cool. All right. So next step, we're going to bring in a stamped image from the Spotlight on Nature. I went ahead and I stamped this leaf on white cardstock using that same Pebbled Path ink because I'm keeping my colors to a minimum. And so I went ahead and I stamped it out onto white cardstock, Pebbled Path, and we're going to pop this up with some foam tape or some dimensionals. And let me see, I may need to chop one of these in half. Let me grab my scissors. I can chop a dimensional in half. And add just a couple more here to pop up the leaves. Now I did some of these things ahead of time, the die cutting, the stamping, the fussy cutting, because this was fussy cut. I believe there are dies for it, but I did fussy cut it just because I knew it was going to take us a few moments to create this card. So to save a little bit of time, I did some things ahead of time. So we're just kind of putting that on there, a little bit on top of there, which I guess I didn't need to put that foam tape on there, but that's okay. It's all good. And then I also stamped out my sentiment for the front, which was stamped on Pebbled Path cardstock. I used the thank you from the Friends for Life stamp set. So there's the thank you. And I stamped it with a Versamark ink and heat embossed with white to create this fun look, which I think looks really good. It sets it off. If I had just put white cardstock on there, it wouldn't have shown up as nicely as it does. So the piece of cardstock that I used for this was 1/2 inch by 2 1/4. I don't think I actually measured. I think I just stamped it and then cut what fit. But that's 1/2 inch by 2 1/4. And then we're going to put some dimensional on the right hand side, and we're going to just put plain adhesive on the left hand side, because we're going to add it on here like this. And so we only need dimension on this side, because remember that gold grid was already popped up with foam tape. So we need to keep our levels even. Okay. We also need a little bit of bling on here, so I'm using some of these retired blings from Stampin' Up! That I was gifted by my friend Samantha, and they're just gorgeous, and I love these sort of goldish-ish gems because they look so good with this. And so let's go ahead and add just a little trio of bling on the front here. We'll put a couple big ones, and then a little one, and you can use your take your pick tool to lift those gems and attach them to your card. So there is the front of our card. Easy peasy. Die cutting those and then sticking them on there. Lots of shine and bling. And I kind of like leaving that plain cardstock base because it just kind of accentuates the fun geometric pattern that we created with those rounded rectangles. All right. Now, back to the inside. We need to create the pillars for our card. So let's scooch this out of the way. We're going to need put my dimensionals back over there. We're going to need 2 pieces of the Pebbled Path cardstock. And these are 7 3/4. Let me just double check. Yes, 7 3/4 by 4 1/4. I'm always like paranoid now that I'm going to say the wrong thing. So we're going to bring back in our scoreboard because we need to do some scoring on both of these. Line it up in the corner there, and we're going to score. Now this is easy. We're going to score at 1 inch, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, as I wander out of the track, 3 inches, and 4 inches. Super simple. So 7 3/4 by 4 1/4, we're scoring at 1, 2, 3, and 4 inches along the 7 3/4 inch side. Let's grab our other piece. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to score at 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch. Alrighty. Let's move this. And let's do our creasing. Now we want to fold these with the bump side to the inside, so I'm going to flip it over. This is where the bump side is. The first one I want to fold, and there's a method to this madness, is this 4 inch score line. I'm going to crease it over, fold it over, and make sure I'm lining up top and bottom and crease it down. Okay. Now, the second score line that I want to fold, as Shannon says, her fingers are falling off from all the fussy cutting. Sometimes that happens. The second score line that I want to fold is the number 2 score line. See how well that works? Second score line is the number 2 score line, the 2 inch one. But what I want to do is I want to start the fold, but then I want to fold this one in. And I want to make sure that this crease line, the number 2-inch crease line, is going to accommodate for this being folded. Okay? You will understand why eventually. But if we turn it over to the other side, we can actually see this crease line. So it will kind of self-adjust itself to accommodate for being inside this other crease line. Now the other two score lines, not as tricky. So start with the 4-inch one, then go to the 2-inch one, and then we can do the other two. Okay? And you'll see why that's important when we get to the assembly bit. Now our 1-inch, like that. Okay, now we have to do the exact same thing on the second one. So we're going to flip to the bump side. We're first going to crease on that 4-inch crease line. Make sure it lines up with itself. Crease it down. Now we're going to move to the number 2. This is the second one we're going to do. The number 2-inch one. And then we want to make sure that it will fit inside that other crease line. So flip it over so we can see everything, so we know it's lining up, and self-adjust it so that it fits and lays flat when that crease is closed. And then we can do the other two score lines. 1, 2. There we go. Okay, now we need to fold up our pillar. And all of these score lines is what is going to create our pillar. If you've ever made a pillar card before, you know it always ends up looking like that. A nice long square tube. So that means we need to put some adhesive on this last panel here, which is actually the first panel technically. That was our 1-inch score line. So we're going to make sure we put a goodly amount of adhesive on here. Like that. I'll even put one in the middle like that. And then take the backing off like so. Now to create our pillar. If we take this is our sticky side here, this outside, and fold it on that number 2 crease line and lay it down so the sticky side is up. Then we take this one, remember we made sure that this one folded nicely over top. Fold that over and stick it down. Okay? And there we have our nice pillar. And it stands up, which is exactly what you want a pillar to do. Want it to be upstanding. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing. This first 1-inch panel, we're going on the outside. See how it curves around? So we want it on the outside of that curve. Put our adhesive. We're just repeating exactly what we just did. So you get to see it twice. Because it's a double pillar book fold card. All right. Shannon, did I get your YouTube channel name right? Creative Chaos in Tennessee? Yes, Tennessee. Yes, I think that's right. She'll let me know. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. We've got our sticky side over here. We're going to fold on that second score line with all their sticky goodness up. Make sure it's all contained. And then we're going to fold this over, stick it all down. And there we have pillar number 2. Now you probably tell yourself, we made the exact same thing, but that's okay because if we just flip it upside down, we have 2 opposite things. That's the great thing about paper. Yay, I got it correct. Awesome. Okay, so now let's bring in our base card. And we are going to, remember how I said we're leaving this weird gap? We are going to attach our pillars to our card in that weird gap. So let's start with the first one. If we take a look, I like to kind of show you this. So this pillar is going to line up right along that edge, okay? Just like that. So we need to attach glue onto this part. And if we fold this down, that's the second one in, if you're looking at it this way. So when it's folded in, it's not the one on the edge, it's the next one that needs to have the adhesive. So we're going to add it. You could even use liquid glue on this too. I'm not going to. I'm just going to do this. If somebody is going to manhandle the card enough to get this off, then there's bigger problems afoot. All right, so we're going to take our backings off. There we go. Okay, so now to stick this on the edge, if I tried to take this wibbledy-wobbledy popped up pillar and stick it down, it's not going to work. This is where we have our glue. The glue needs to go here. So instead of having it this way, like I did when I was putting the glue on, I'm going to fold it out. Okay, so it's folded out flat. I'm going to flip it over so that glue is right behind there. And then I'm going to take this and line it up with the edge of my card front on the inside, of course. And before I stick anything down, I want to make sure it's following this edge of the card front as well. And then we'll just glue it down. Okay? We can even take it to the inside or the outside and just fold it all. Looking good. Okay, so we have now attached the first pillar of our double pillar card. Let's do the same thing with the other side. So we have our pillar. This part's going to be facing towards the center. We need to put this piece on the edge, so we need to attach glue there, even if you want to put your finger there to make sure that you're going to put it in the right spot. I'm going to fold it. I'll do the same way as I did it before. I'm going to fold it to the inside, or you could fold it to the outside. We're going to fold it to the outside eventually, but we'll do the exact same. So we folded it to the inside. We're gluing this down. I always fold it whichever way is going to make it sense so that everything underneath is not trying to fight against you. Because there's layers and there's glue and there's folds and all sorts of things happening under there. So it's going to want to fight back a little bit while you're squishing it down. Okay, now I'm going to turn this around. This is why we haven't decorated these, because I'd be sure to put something upside down. I'm going to turn it around so that I can look at it the same way I did before. So there's our popped up pillar that has to get stuck down there. So I'm going to now squish it away from this panel, so to the outside, so that my glue edge is going to be right here. And then I'm going to line it up with the back of my card, like that. And before I squish anything too much, make sure I've got it nice and level across the bottom. And then stick her down. Make sure you get good contact. Okay, so now you can see that this is creating a really fun shape, don't you think? So this is that book fold card. I've got a tiny little fruit fly. I don't know if you can even see it. It was bugging me the other day during the crop, and it's still here. I left the door open, hoping it would go out, but it has stayed around. Oh, well. So now we need to do a little more decorating in here. So on the inside of these two panels, I'm going to create a little bit of a layer with some more of the fresh Fresia. And this has been cut to, let me make sure I'm giving you the dimensions in the right order, 3 5/8 by 4 1/8. So let's go ahead. I'm going to stick some adhesive on here, but then I'm going to do something else before I stick it down. Okay, so 3 5/8 by 4 1/8. And that's that same lovely fresh Fresia that we have in there. Okay, just set them there for a second. Then we're going to bring in some more DSP from the Nature's Sweetness. And look at this one. Isn't this fun? And this is why I thought I should do a book fold card, because there's this lovely DSP that has, it's actually, if you try and read the wording, it's about flowers. And so we're using that Spotlight on Nature stamp set that has flowers in it. But look at that lovely gold foil-y splatter that's on there. How fun is that? And I like that the print itself is kind of distressed as well. So these have been cut to 3.5 by 4 inches. So we're going to layer these up. Oh, I should point out, I actually cut these. I put them in the right way. I actually cut these together. So I did like 7 inches across. And then I cut it in half because I wanted my words to kind of go from one side to the other. Not necessary, but I did it that way. So let's add some adhesive on the back of this one. Whenever you're putting text on a project, you probably want to make sure that the text is going the right way. You want it to go vertical. Up and down, left to right, unless it's a different language, which goes right to left. And we're going to center that on this fresh Fresia, which is just a tiny little edge, just enough to give us a little pop of color. So let's go ahead and stick this one down as well. I know I'm kind of on the edge of the screen here. Take the backings off. And make sure we're going vertically, left to right. Line it up. Are you like me when you're trying to line stuff up? You're looking up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Checking 700 times. Isn't this paper gorgeous? I thought so too, Shannon. And I thought, you know what? If it's going to be... Oh, I already put that on there. If it's going to be called a book fold card, why not make it look like the pages of a book? Plus, it's talking about flowers, and we're so going to put a flower on here. All right, so now what I'm going to do to make it easy is I'm going to squish this down, and I'm actually going to line it up with this side if I can. Fingers crossed. I'm not really good going that direction, but there we go. And then on this side, we are going to squish it towards the center. This will be a little easier. That's the direction I always go. And there we go. Isn't that lovely? And I like how when it's kind of there, this nice foil in behind, you get like glints of it. But if you squish these down, you can actually see there's a nice little teeny tiny fine little strip of that gold that shows through. I think that's just gorgeous. Okay, let's add some more detail to the inside of our card. We're going to add a bit here. We can't forget about those edges. We've created the edges. It's like creating a monster. You've created the edges. Now you got to do something about it. So I've got 2 pieces of fresh Fresia, and these are 7/8 by 4 inches. So we've got 2 of those. And then I've got 2 more of that lovely Nature's Sweetness gold foily specialty DSP. And these are 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches. So this wasn't 4 inches. Let me get that right. 4 1/8. So this was 7/8 by 4 1/8. And these are 3/4 by 4. Got it. I knew we'd get there eventually. I have it written down correctly. I just didn't read it when I was saying them. I tried to go by measuring them and I went too fast. You're going too fast. All right, we're going to layer these up just like we did on the front. So I like that this gold foil leafy pattern is carrying through to the outside of the card on these edges and also on the front, because I think it's my favorite along with this booky one. So there's that panel. And then let's center this one. Oh my goodness, that fruit fly. There's times of the years when it doesn't pay to buy bananas at the store. Ugh. All right. Another bit of leafy gold, leafy goodness sticking down on there. Lovely. Let's add a little more. Now, there are a lot of layers in this card. And you may find that this card, if you put it in the mail, may cost you a little extra postage. I'm just going to warn you now, because there are a few layers. But if you deliver it in person, not a problem. And sometimes it's worth it for a really fun and elegant and pretty and gorgeous fancy fold card. Wouldn't somebody who loves gardening or somebody who loves reading find this a really good fun fold? So we're going to center that there. And wouldn't this be happy mail to get in the mail? And then we're going to come over here. We're going to get centered on this panel. Look at that. Doesn't that make it look fancy? All right. Now a little bit more embellishment. On this left-hand side, I want to add another piece of that gold Mercury vellum. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a couple little snippets of adhesive in the corners. Quite often you have to be careful with vellum, but there's a lot going on this vellum, so I don't think anybody's eyes are going to be overly drawn to any minute little bit of adhesive that might look through. Like I'm looking right now, I'm looking directly at it knowing where I put the adhesive, and I don't see it. So it's kind of cool that way, because sometimes just regular vellum, oh, you got to be so careful about where you're putting adhesive. All right, on top of this, I want to add in the little butterfly from the Spotlight on Nature stamp set. So I have a piece of the Pebbled Path, and I'm not only just going to add that on there, I'm going to heat emboss it on there. So I'm going to grab my scrap paper. I've got my Versamark ink, my white embossing powder, and let's ink this up, stamp it. I already did a little bit of the anti-static-y stuff on there, the little starchy stuff. We're going to sprinkle this on here. Tap, tap, tap. That was more than a sprinkle. That was a deluge of embossing powder. But it's okay, because this is what we use our little scrap paper for, is we just funnel it all back in to our container. So, you know, when you buy a thing of embossing powder like this, I probably bought 1.5 years ago, and it's still like 3/4 full. Now, maybe I don't do as much heat embossing as some people, but I do a decent amount. So I've got my heat tool here. I always hold it up above my work surface so it doesn't affect the, the finish on my table or anything like that. And then we just go ahead and let that heat do its thing. I do not recommend shaking your heat tool around. It doesn't help anything heat faster. If you want to move it around a little bit, you can, but I wouldn't shake it, because there's a hot element that gets going in there, and when things get hot, they get more delicate, and you don't want to have your nice hot element go snappy snappy and then not have a heat tool anymore. That would be sad. All right, now just checking. Yes, we're good. All right, to get a little bit starch off, we're just going to give a little brush there with a tissue, and then you know what we need to do, right? We need to give this a little bit of a trim. So first we'll rough cut some of that off, and then we'll just go around. We're going to leave a halo of that Pebbled Path cardstock, and this is what Shannon's been doing all day. She'll be so excited to watch me do some more fussy cutting. I did volunteer that if she wanted to pass anything through the screen during our Zoom We Craft Wednesdays, I'd happily fussy cut for her, but we couldn't quite figure out the process of passing things from Tennessee to Ontario through the Zoom screen. We need to get one of those transporter things from Star Trek, I guess. There we go. Gone all the way around. And let's bring in our card. Let's add some adhesive. I'm not popping this off because it's on the inside. And there's enough stuff going on. And this whole pillared section is popped up. So we don't need to add any more. But we're just going to go ahead and stick our pretty butterfly right there. And that gold Mercury Vellum just gave it a nice place to kind of sit itself on the page. We're not doing anything else with it. Now, coming over to this side, I did the same process, but with the tulip. And of course, I did it ahead of time because this one's a little more fussy cutting, detailing happening. And I even cut the interior little fussy cut bits with my precision blade, so y'all didn't need to watch that, right? And then we're going to go ahead and add some adhesive on here. I could use liquid glue, but that would take patience and, you know. There we go. Got some adhesive on there. And just lifting all the backings off. And I seen, oh, there's one. It was static to me. There we go. And we're going to stick our lovely tulips down here, kind of in the center, maybe on a little bit of a slantish sort of way. And there we go. We have completed our double pillar book fold card. And you know what? When it's standing up and you have it kind of like this, you can actually almost make it look. You can get those edges to touch. It looks like a fun kind of geometric shape, doesn't it? But it looks like a book. But then when you open it up, you see your sentiment. You see the spot where we've left for it to write. So when you want to write, you don't have to try and work your way around there. Just squish it out to the outside. If you don't want your message showing if somebody puts it on display, you could always put a panel on the back. But I think that that is perfectly fine. So there we go. That is our double pillar book fold card. We created the base using Pebbled Path cardstock. We used all these lovely patterns from the Nature's Sweetness Specialty DSP. It's a 12 by 12 pack. Then we also used the gold Mercury Vellum 12 by 12 specialty paper. We did some heat embossing. We did some stamping with Pebbled Path using Spotlight on Nature. And this was the Friends for Life. A little bit of retired bling on there because doesn't it look just so pretty with that? Then, of course, when you open up, you know how you have books, like old vintage books that have that gold foil on the edge? I think they always look so pretty. That's kind of the look we're going for here. And then we open up. We've got that beautiful fresh freesia in there. We've got a little bit of glow from the pattern of the gold that we can kind of see popping through there. We have that fun bookie paper with the splatters, some more fresh freesia in there, some heat embossing on the Pebbled Path, a little bit more of that gold Mercury Vellum. How lovely is that? And of course, it folds flat into a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch standard envelope. And there you have it. Our double pillar book fold card. I hope you enjoyed seeing that come together. I hope you are inspired to create one of your own. And if you do, just go ahead, take some photos and pop it in the comments where I post this on the Life is Art Let's Create group or on the Life is Art with Monica Hayward Facebook page. I always forget to tell people what my Facebook page is, but you know, that's all right. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll see you again soon. Have a wonderful evening. Toodaloo. Bye.